I am actually in Toronto. If you can hear me okay, can you guys give me a thumbs up? So you can, fantastic. Thank you so much. So I'm just flew in last night to Toronto. I'm at a conference called Idea City that a dear friend of mine, Moses Neimer, puts on. I had a really fun experience this morning, which was I was the opening speaker for a debate, and hopefully some of you saw it, on technology, promise or peril. Actually, I was ready for a sort of a head-to-head debate on the situation. I think it wasn't anywhere near as brutal as I wanted it to be, and in fact, I like it when I get challenged. In one sense, the whole case for abundance is part of my MTP. It's what I believe, and I spend a lot of time and energy gathering data for it, and whenever I can be challenged by somebody about my MTP, it makes me stronger. And so at the end of the day, having some kind of that kind of a challenge is really important. So what I wanted to talk about today, and let me see one other thing, which is I just had a great meetup with a group of Abundance Digital members from Toronto, and so to Chris and Adrian and Sadaf and Diane, who are there. Thank you for coming and hanging out, and I'm looking forward to doing more of those in the cities as I'm traveling around the country and around the world. Let's see, I know that I'll be going to London soon, so we should do something in London, and Iceland. If we have any members in Iceland, I'll be going to Iceland as well. All right, so the session today I want to talk about is really how do you keep yourself in state? How do you keep yourself in a positive mindset? How do you keep your MTP alive? What is it that allows you to sort of keep in there? Now, at the end of the day, if it's truly a massively transformative purpose, and I'm going to focus on the word massively, it's hard. It is crazy. It's big. It's bold. It might be a 5, 10, 20, 30-year lifetime long experience. And at the end of the day, you're going to be consistently running into people who tell you that's crazy, it can't be done. And of course, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. It's a very important element, right? Because if you automatically say, oh, that's a crazy idea, I have no idea what I was thinking about, and you shut yourself down, you have stopped right then and there, and you're not going to spend the time, the energy, the conversations, the reading, the investment that's going to be required to continue on. It's important for you to remember what it is. I have crazy MTPs. My massively transformative purpose of opening up space for humanity, that whole area. You have to understand, before it became fashionable to talk about Elon and Jeff Bezos and the billions they're putting in, this idea that I'm going to be an entrepreneur and open up space was considered crazy. It was something that even my family was not, they were sort of supportive, but it was like, that's nice, son, but you're going to be a doctor. And that's a realization that we have to realize, is that that the having something that is big enough to inspire you is going to appear as crazy or dangerous to other people, and you have to be willing to accept that. So what does that mean? So my day starts every day and ends every day in the same fashion. In the morning, it is a meditation, which is I'm focusing on 3 attributes of myself. I am joy, I am love, I am gratitude. I'm focusing on the gratitude, the things that I'm grateful for in my life. And as my friend Dan Sullivan talks about, I'm also here in Toronto for a session with Strategic Coach. But Dan Sullivan talks about this concept of being in the gap. What does that mean? It means that if you are measuring yourself against infinity away, you're never going to close that gap, and you're going to always be in the gap. If instead you're measuring yourself against where you were a year ago or 5 years ago, that progress that you've made over a year or 5 years is palpable. And so I think about that. I think about, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm thinking about the gratitude I have for how far things have come in my life, on all aspects of my life in the last 1 to 5 to 10 years. And I think that's true for each and every one of us. Okay, next. It is, for me, it is a reminder, and I'll do this 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day, of my massively transformative purpose. It's, I add an element that I got from Tony Robbins from Date from Destiny, where I use the phraseology that I see, hear, feel, and know, that the purpose of my life is to inspire and guide the transformation of humanity on and off the earth. And I feel that. And so what are the implications that means? The talking about inspiring and guiding, then infects everything else I do. So as I'm speaking about the work that I do at XPRIZE, as I'm speaking about the work that I'm doing with you here in the Abundance Digital community, when I'm thinking about the work I'm doing at Singularity University, I realize that I get my greatest purpose when I'm here to help inspire you and to help guide you. That gives me my greatest, and that those neurons light up. So I was having a conversation here in Toronto with Adrian about MTP, and Adrian is one of a number of individuals, maybe some of you here, that hasn't locked on to your MTP yet. And I said, listen, I feel lucky that I had one as a child, but I also know that I've evolved over time, where I have found my additional MTPs around supporting entrepreneurs to create a world of abundance and about extending the healthy human lifespan. Those have become centerpieces, foci, that I spend my life and energy, and people know me for those massively transformative purposes. And you may have something from your childhood, or you may be searching for something today. And at the end of the day, I said again, for you to really truly get an MTP, there needs to be an emotional energy there. There needs to be an energy that is either extraordinarily positive or extraordinarily, I don't want to say negative, but it has to drive you, right? It's an MTP that is, I'm going to solve this problem. I'm so sick and tired that no one is solving this problem. Governments aren't doing it. Companies aren't doing it. I'm going to, I'm more powerful now as an individual. I'm speaking, all of us are, than the heads of nations were just, 30 or 40 years ago in terms of access to knowledge, capital, technology, information that you have. So you're going to find something that you want to solve that's not being solved, or something that excites you, right? So part of it is keeping yourself excited, keeping yourself energized. And in order for you to feel that something is your MTP, you can't just say it and have it be so. You're going to have to invest the hours. You're going to have to spend the time learning, thinking, having conversations, feeling that, what that's like. And let me just share another sort of means around, basically, if you haven't found your MTP yet, I want to invite you to try some things. It's like, create your short list of what it might be. What are the top 5 ideas that it might be? And then force yourself to eliminate 1 or 2 of those and end up with 3 of them. And then the question is, when you've found those 3 things that might be your MTP, it is your responsibility. Now, first of all, just to be clear, if there are 3 things on your short list that might be your MTP, they're probably awesome things. They're things that you care about. They're things that you want to do. They're things that excite you in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on your list. And therefore, they're worthy of your time and your energy. So I want to invite you, if you've got 3 ideas at your MTP, you need to then decide how you're going to spend enough time to dive into those, to start to learn about those. It might be reading some documentaries. It might be reading a couple of books. It might be having a series of conversations. An MTP becomes something that you're as alive in your heart and your soul, not instantly. Never happened to me around. It happens because you spent enough time talking to enough people, reading enough about it, thinking about it, challenging yourself about it enough that it starts to become part of who you are. And so I just want to, people have a hard time sometimes coming up with MTPs because they feel it's got to be perfect, or it's got to be the right one, or I just don't feel it yet. Well, feeling it is going to come from you spending enough time and energy and having enough conversations that at the end of the day, you say, yeah, I'm pretty knowledgeable about that, and I feel excited about when I speak about that. Do you get additional energy? Does it feed you energy when you're talking about that subject? And you're never going to know that unless you try it on. So if you've got a top three, I'm going to invite you to go to a party and present yourself as, my mission is to educate women in Africa, or my mission is to create foods that are healthy, that reduce addiction to sugar, or whatever it might be, and actually have that conversation with a dozen people. So your goal here in staying in state is going to be, first of all, this is Neurolinguistics 101 from Tony Robbins. It's writing out what that MTP is and repeating it to yourself a number of times, and then going and having conversations with people about that. It's reading about it. And if you're going to go have some conversations at parties, at dinner, about this notion that is your MTP that you're trying on, it's important to have done some research. So go and have these conversations and feel what it's like to embody that mission and purpose. And it's very much like the 10,000 hours. The more you embody it, the more you have conversations about it, the more you learn about it, the more that you find what's failed about it, the more that you're going to be able to actually feel like this is an important part of who I am. So let me pause there and transition in part to another element here, which is in you're starting to feel this is meaningful for my life. Again, if I, in a search for purpose, if I made a dent in this area, it will be a meaningful part of my life. And I feel this way right now personally, between you and me. If I'm able to be part of that effort to move humanity off the planet, if I'm able to help extend the healthy human lifespan, if I'm able to help inspire and guide entrepreneurs like yourselves to help create a world of abundance, these are the things that will give my life meaning. And there's nothing I feel better about is when I meet abundance community members and they say, Peter, you inspired me to take a risk, to go do this, and it's changed the way I view life. I mean, you can't buy that. It's that gives me such joy. It makes me want to work that much harder for each and every one of you. So when you're in that zone of your MTP, it's that positive feedback loop that feeds you. So at the end of the day, within your MTP, trying to get access to your moonshot. Now, I had Jeremy and Bree send out our 5-year moonshot planner, and I'd like to spend a couple of minutes talking about that because it's something that you can use every day. So let me just pull this up. I'll read to you the elements here. This is something I put together for Abundance 360 a couple years back. And let's talk about this 1 second, because I think there's some very important lessons here. And I use this today still. So the 5-year moonshot planner, the first question it asks is, what is your 5-year moonshot goal? What's your 10x goal in 5 years' time? And again, you can have a moonshot for your business. It doesn't have to be around your personal MTP, or it can be around yourself personally. Second question it asks is, what concrete objective can you achieve this year that will put you on your moonshot schedule? It's really important, right? Because if you're picking a just a crazy moonshot goal. And I'll talk about, some of the work that I'm doing in longevity. I'm working with Tony Robbins and Bob Hariri on a new company in the stem cell world. And so I'll come back to that in a moment. So what is the objective this year? Second, what do you want in the next 30 days to test and de-risk your 1 in 5 year objective? That de-risking, so if you spend a year working on a project and all of a sudden you come to some kind of a roadblock, like no one wants it, or it's illegal, or whatever the case might be, if you can ask specific questions today that will save you from going down one particular path that will have wasted a year's time, that's very important. It's not to say, by the way, that a roadblock, like is it legal or whatever, should stop you from pursuing it. You may need to change the laws. I've had experience doing that, and believe me, it's something you can, and for the right moonshot, probably will have to do. But then 4 is, what evidence can you provide to your team that this moonshot is achievable? And the last question I want to focus on, which is the reason I distributed this, is what is one action that you can take right now to make immediate progress? And so I can't stress enough the number of times that I've had to, that this item here has sent me on a journey. What do I mean by that? So we all have projects that we wanted to do, and we're all busy. We're busy with life. We're busy with our kids. We're busy with our work. We're busy with, just living life. We don't have endless hours of freedom. But at the end of the day, if something is important to you in your MTP and within the context of a moonshot you want to take, I know, like many people, I have put off. And so I've used this, okay, and I'm done. What is something I can do right now that is going to put me on a path to immediate progress, right? What is that one email, that one meeting I can schedule, that one phone call I can make that is going to knock the first domino over in this trajectory? And so I want to urge you to try using this moonshot planner, because for me it works. When I'm starting a company, and a lot of the moonshots and my companies are one in the same, I will create a company in order to enable a moonshot, or a moonshot in order to enable a company. And so being able to write this out, like here's the action, and I might actually take 2 or 3 immediate actions. I might set up a meeting, send out an email, send out a text message, whatever it might be. And there's one particular aspect of my business, in particular in the stem cell business, that I was holding off on doing. So I literally, this first thing I did this morning when I woke up was I sent Tony and Bob an audio message on specifically the things we need to get done today. And that was my means for kicking this off. And then identifying exactly what would be my 30-day goal, my 1-year goal, my 5-year goal in this. All right, so shall we take a few questions before we break up into our Zoom rooms, and we'll shape what's going to be going on in the Zoom rooms?
Yeah. One question.
I'm here with Bree.
You can hear me in the background. So one question is, how did you start researching your MTP? So you've talked about how it's important to talk to other people about your MTP and gather that social feedback, but how did you start really doing your homework on it?
So let's get into the longevity MTP for me. Bree, if you just, where am I here?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I think it is, with like anything, it is finding people who are experts in that area and speaking to them. You're going to find a lot of experts here in the community, and they're going to be willing to share their insights and knowledge with you, because ultimately my hope is that you guys are going to partner together on moonshots and partner together in companies and partner together on issues. But it's going and finding some individuals that are ahead of the knowledge curve and asking them. It's reading it's watching videos, it's getting knowledge and information. It's writing down what are the questions, what are your assumptions, and what are the questions. So when I started getting into the longevity space, I watched some of the work that Aubrey de Grey had done, and some of the writings that Ray Kurzweil had done, and went and watched documentaries on this and started reading books. And then actually the final result was going out then and finding a couple of potential partners. One of them was Bob Hariri, who turned out to be an extraordinary partner, because I like taking on journeys of a moonshot with a partner, and doing it with one or two partners because they're all hard, and having someone who has that same emotional energy and can keep the conversation alive with you, I think is very, very useful. So it's educating yourself. And then if you can find a particular segment of that moonshot you want to take on, so much the better.
Perfect. And what was the moment for you personally that you had your aha moment where you knew what an MTP was?
Wow. So interestingly, it's a little bit different. I had my massively transformative purpose in my childhood. It's what I think emotionally turned me on when I dreamed, I had a different level of energy when I was talking to people about space than I did when I was talking about other things. And honestly, I called it an MTP later. The term MTP I had the pleasure to help write exponential organizations with Salim. I was writing Bold at the same time, and my publisher wouldn't let me put my name as a co-author on EXO. So it was like, here, Salim, I'll write the forward. But MTP came out of that book, and it was right. It was, yes, that is it. It's not just a purpose in life. It's a massively transformative purpose. It's crazy. It's organizes my thinking, my actions, my goals, my inspirations, and it allows me to dream. So, we're heading into a world where there really is very little that's impossible anymore. I mean, I hate, it's strange. So I was in a meeting yesterday in Los Angeles with a company called Lightfield Labs and Otoy, being shown the technology for what is effectively the holodeck. I mean, without glasses. I mean, walking into a room and being in a room that is a holodeck with three-dimensional visual objects that look absolutely solid and real, and that in the next generation you can reach out and touch. It's insane. And by the way, I'm bringing that technology and those CEOs to Abundance 360 this January, so you can meet and talk with them and see what's going on. In addition to the work that Philip Rosedale is doing in the virtual worlds, it's going to be awesome. And so I'm just clear that what you think of that might be crazy right now isn't going to be 5 years from now. And then it might be sort of, so obviously boring 10 years from now, right? You talk to your phone and it answers, and you can have a two-way video conference call for free. This stuff was insane, 20 years back.
So I can imagine that a lot of people think that you're crazy. How do you deal with the fear and judgment from other people?
Great question. And yes, and I'm in a slightly different stage of life now than I was before. And people, I'm sure a lot of people do think I'm crazy. And sometimes I will say, thank you. That's a compliment. Because, being normal, I think, is kind of boring. Not to be judgmental, but I think the idea of being willing to dream and to put yourself out there is something that is not for everybody, but that's why you're here. That's why we work together, to give yourself that confidence. So this is where having a community like Abundance Digital is valuable, where you can put yourself out for crazy ideas, and the community is not going to be judgmental of you. They'll give you feedback. They'll support you in your thinking. I think it's not going to be for the Thanksgiving table sometimes. It's not going to be for your around water cooler talk at work sometimes, but it should be for the conversations that you're here. And then, by the way, what happens is there's a technology breakthrough, or you accomplish something, or you bring additional evidence, and what you used to think of or what others used to criticize you for as crazy is not as crazy. Final point on that is, and I write about this in bold, you don't get from zero to infinity overnight. It's very important on your trek to your moonshot within your MTP to pick the first step and accomplish that, and have your community see that you've done that, and then the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. So it was when I started International Space University with Todd Hawley and Bob Richards. Again, the three of us, it was great to have co-founders. Our vision was to create a global university for the study of space that would have assets in space. But we started by actually holding a conference. That was our first step, but we achieved that. Then we held a program at MIT one summer. We achieved that. Then we held it in 5 countries around the world. Then we built a $100 million campus in Strasbourg, France. And again, each step, you get to a billion-fold, not in one step, by 30 incremental doublings. And so start with the first step, and then to the next step, and the next step. And people will watch you, and they'll see you, and you'll stumble, and you'll succeed. I've had my share of failures, and I will have more. And I will pick myself up, and I will continue on that path.
Great. Last question that we have time for is, how much of your daily life feels dedicated to your MTP? If all of it, when did you switch from part of your daily life to all of your daily life?
That's a great question. So let me take a moment to actually think about it and give you a considered answer there. I feel like when I switched from doing what I was being told to do by others, in one case my parents or my teachers, to doing the things that I wanted to do, was a significant switch from living outside of my purpose to living my purpose. I believe I am living my purpose almost all the time at this point. I don't, that includes having to be in a family or as a dad of my kids, and that's not in my MTP, but it is truly part of my heart and my soul and my purpose. And I think when I'm not happy about something, I realize I'm not living in my purpose. And I've started to do something. I've started to parse things in an interesting way, and I'll share it with you. When an opportunity comes along, whether it's a speaking engagement or how I use my time, I realized that I'm very clear that it's something that I love doing, or something I don't love doing, or something in the middle. And I've realized if it's something I love doing, I should do. And if it's something I don't love doing, I shouldn't do it. But in that zone in the middle, I realized that honestly, that zone in the middle of things not sure if I want to do, it actually needs to go into the I don't want to do it. I'm clear enough about the things that I love and my purpose in my life that I should be at a stage in my life today where I do the things that I'm passionate about and I desire and love and wish to do. And there's plenty of those things. And so I think it's every day, right? It's every day making choices and choosing you and choosing your purpose first and foremost. And let me close this part by saying, guys, I also realize that life doesn't always allow that there's having to do your work, having to, do what you need to do to earn income, to put food on the table. And I am where I am right now as a result of, honestly, a 35-year journey here since college. And please, it's something that you need to start on day one and start to gain, do 1 more % next month in the things that you love to do, and then 1 more % the next month, and pretty soon you'll be at 100%. But don't beat yourself up for not being there. Your goal is to try on those MTPs, to try on those moonshots, and to start living life with people with whom you share those passions. So Jeremy is going to divide the group up into Zoom rooms now, and I'd love you to carry on this conversation in terms of, if you've got your MTP, what are you doing to keep that alive in your day? What are the conversations you're having? Do you go to parties and openly speak about your MTP? Do you share it with your wife, your husband, your kids? Do you share it with with people around you? Do you share it with strangers because it feels safer to do? The more you're able to speak openly about it, it's putting yourself out there. It's literally opening yourself up and taking a risk. But that's the way you're going to feel that emotional energy that will make it more of who you are. I remember the first time I talked about my MTP in front of 1,000 people on a stage. I felt a little nervous, but it felt empowering after that. So how do you make your MTP and your moonshot more part of you? Are you speaking about it? Who is your community of individuals that you share this with? Hopefully some members here. And then if you haven't found your MTP yet, do you have a short list? Maybe you can sort of share the short list, and then what will you do to try it on for the next, try an MTP on for a day, for a week, for a month, and then discard it if you don't like it after that. But hopefully these are useful means for you to keep this passion and energy alive in your life, because it's what gives our life meaning. We're alive during a time where we can do almost anything. How you use your time, your treasures, your talent, all of these things matter. And anyway, I'm an honor and a pleasure to spend time with you all. And Bree, you want to take it from here?
Yep. So Jerem's going to break everybody out into hi. Jerem's going to break everybody out into rooms. You're going to see an invite on your end come through shortly.